This decline by the Utah Jazz is some of the fastest and most disappointing I've seen in a while. After multiple years of great defense and great offense, while having some holes on their roster, the Utah Jazz, in a year where they should look to finally take the leap into true contender land, has seemingly finally been crumbling and ready to fall off a cliff with the resignation of their coach and the guy that seemingly made the system to get them to where they are, in Quinn Snyder. And with Donovan Mitchell seeming uneasy with this team and showing even more want for power in the franchise and the ability to be there in discussions to choose the next coach, and not hearing from Rudy Gobert at all in his name in the trade market, it seems like this Utah Jazz team only has one way they're going in this free agency market. So we're going to talk about the problems this team does have, how we even got here, and what could be some of the solutions to even solve some of these problems for the Jazz to be in the best spot they can be for the future. Before I get started, I'm FLB. I've been making videos for the past year and a half, and I've really gained some really good traction the past couple months. And so far in these NBA playoffs, I've done really well. And going into the offseason, I have a lot to say about certain teams and how they fit from the draft to free agency to training camp. And I'd love to have you back here if you really hear any of that. But let's get started. So if we want to pinpoint where things all went wrong for the Utah Jazz, we have to go back to the 2020-2021 season, a season where the Utah Jazz was number one in the Western Conference in the record at 52-20. It was the year the NBA had a 72-game shortened season. It was right after the bubble, and it was coming off Donovan Mitchell showing an incredible performance in the NBA bubble. So in a year where the Jazz are a top 5 offense and a top 3 defense in the entire NBA, Rudy Gobert captured his third Defensive Player of the Year award. Donovan Mitchell finally took the leap into true superstardom, and everybody and their mama on this damn team seemed to have a career shooting the ball, from Bogdanovich to Jordan Clarkson, who was the Sixth Man of the Year this year, to Joe Ingles, who shot 45% from 3 this season. Overall, this team just seemed like it was poised and ready to strike in a Western Conference that was not only depleted, but seemed very, very weak at the time. And going in the playoffs, with the guys going down left and right, with the Phoenix Suns not really looking like true contenders, and with Kawhi Leonard going down in the second round matchup with the Jazz, it looked like the Jazz was very much poised to finally make a mini run that could either end in the conference finals or an NBA finals berth. But again, the issues that's been there for a couple years finally showed back up, and Rudy Gobert again was forced to play perimeter defense on a lot of perimeter players. And while he's not a chair while playing perimeter defense, he's actually better than the majority of centers in this league. When you put him against constant offensive talent that's at the top of the league, obviously he's going to seem weak in comparison to when he's protecting the rim. And I do think it's completely unfair to blame Rudy Gobert only for a lot of this team's problems. Defensively, he's the only reason this team is top 3. Without him as the backup there, and the entire defensive scheme being funneling people to Rudy Gobert so that he can contest their shots at the rim, I honestly think this defense would be bottom 20 in the entire, or bottom 10 in the entire NBA. So with all that being said, it's also very, very, how do I put this? Sad to see that this team really hasn't figured out that they need to put some defensive pieces around Donovan Mitchell. Because as a small, undersized guard in the entire NBA, playing shooting guard at 6'3" right now in a league that's already going towards positionless basketball, and everybody and their mom is over 6'7", while his defensive woes isn't completely excusable, it's very much understandable. And while players shooting 10% better while being guarded by you is unacceptable in many ways, it's shown that Donovan Mitchell may not be the defender that you expect him to be. It takes a lot of skill and effort sometimes, and he doesn't even look like he's willing to put that in. And while you should be asking that for your stars on your team right now, with the way he's scoring and the way he's showing the ability, sometimes you have to accept certain parts of people's game and then build a team according to that. And Rudy Gobert is the perfect center to have as a distributor, but his relationship with Donovan Mitchell seemed to finally falling off a cliff the past couple of years. From Rudy Gobert making jokes and touching all the mics when the vid was going around a lot, to him calling out his teammates and their defensive efforts throughout the entire NBA playoffs. The stat coming out that Donovan Mitchell either only had 2 assists or only passed Rudy Gobert 2 times throughout the entire playoffs. It's just a lot of things that show up on this Utah Jazz roster as problems here, chemistry-wise and build-wise. And their build has slowly started to fall apart. Joe Ingles really hit the max of what he could produce as an NBA player for this team, and they traded him away. As of right now, Mike Conley slowly getting to that level where he's about to enter, I think, his 16th season in the NBA, and he's just not the same guard either defensively or offensively anymore. Overall, this team seems to be falling apart in a lot of ways, and you need to look to part ways with either Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert, and the most likely piece you're going to part ways with is Rudy Gobert. But with that being said, you're going to have to get somebody that's either transcended offensively or defensively for him, because you're going to need an even better offense to supplement the defensive woes you're going to have without him, or you're going to need a better defender that can at least produce a little bit on offense, so you don't really feel the hit as bad as possible. You can still maintain a top 10 offense while maybe having a mid to top level defense in the entire NBA with a center like, I don't know, Miles Turner, a guy that can give you some shooting outside of the paint, but also be a pretty good rim protector. He's not really much else outside of that, but I think he can still replace some of the things that Rudy Gobert does give you here. And while I would love to see Rudy Gobert on a team like the Dallas Mavericks, because I think a pairing between him and Luka would be great, especially with those lob passes and Rudy Gobert being an elite lob threat in this league. I think it'd be very effective for them. I just also think there's certain teams in the NBA that can give a lot better offer than the Dallas Mavericks can for Rudy Gobert. And the Jazz have already made it known that unless they're getting a completely monstrous offer, Donovan Mitchell is going nowhere, and he really doesn't have any ways of pushing himself out. He's on contract for multiple years, so unless he decides to pull some shtick like a Ben Simmons where he just doesn't decide to play at all and forces his way out that way, which I don't think he will, he's pretty much here for the next couple of years in Utah. So with all that being said, the solution I have for this team is simply you must part ways with these guys, and I think Rudy Gobert is the guy that does need to go. And I think it's best Rudy Gobert can flourish somewhere else, and I do think you may see some effort as a playmaker and maybe a little more effort as a defender with Rudy Gobert not here on Donovan Mitchell's part. I don't think it'd be that much of a difference, but he definitely has a propensity to really not trust his teammates in the clutch time and takes a lot of contested and low IQ jumpers sometimes when the game is close, trying to be a little bit of a hero instead of running the plays and running a pick and roll with what is I think is an elite lob threat in this league, and not even passing the ball sometimes. Rudy Gobert can park himself under the rim sometimes with smaller guys on him, and he simply won't get the ball. But this isn't a Donovan Mitchell slander video or a Rudy Gobert praise video. A lot of this stuff is on both of them. They're the two biggest stars on this team, and they need to learn to coexist, and they simply haven't been able to do it. So I think it's time that you do finally make the necessary changes. And with Donovan Mitchell already showing that he wants a little bit more say in what goes on in the franchise and who the next coach is going to be, you can definitely expect that to be somebody that caters to his offensive style a little bit more. Overall, Rudy Gobert probably would do a lot better somewhere else, or at least be a little bit more appreciated, because right now he's putting up a all-time level resume for all NBA teams, 3 Defensive Player of the Years, all defensive team for I think 4 or 5 years straight now. Those are resumes that's better than guys like Alonzo Mourning, and is getting to like probably a little bit better than even Ben Wallace's resume. I know a lot of people don't like Rudy, but he's definitely a transcendent defender in this NBA right now. So to wrap this up, long story short, the Jazz do need to part ways with Rudy Gobert. I think it's the best thing for both him and Donovan Mitchell's career. You won't have to deal with the chemistry problems that showing up even more. And even then, maybe the chemistry problems will still be there. Maybe there's some even more internal problems that don't even go back to Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell in the franchise. You just never know. I do think Donovan Mitchell is going to be there to stay. I don't think there's going to be anybody that throws an offer that's outstandingly great at the Jazz that makes them think different. I think the best offer so far I've seen came from the Bulls with a package of either like Kobe or Patrick Williams and Nikola Vucevic. Vucevic can give you a little bit more of that offensive punch than Rudy Gobert can, at least as a post scorer and a mid-range shooter, even though his three-point shot has definitely taken a hit so far this season. I do think with the correct amount of touches and the right spacing and a little bit more defensive attention from other people, I do think he can definitely get back that 3-point percentage, and without a certain amount of responsibility, he can definitely be helpful on this team. And someone like Patrick Williams is a great perimeter defender that you can put next to a Donovan Mitchell that has the size and the ability to guard some of the better guards and forwards in this league. And while I don't think that'll be enough to supplement the defensive woes that's going to come with replacing Rudy Gobert with Nikola Vucevic, it's still a lot better than anything at all. But with that being said, this is FLB. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think the Utah Jazz is done for? are these this core is done for, and it's really hard for small teams to really rebuild that well, considering that it's really hard to get guys to go there in free agency, and even when you do trade for guys, they may be gone as soon as their contract's up. But we never know what's going on with the Jazz. So with that being said, let me know you guys think in the comments down below. With that being said, this FLB, that's my time, and I'm out.